Hi everyone. Today we're going to discuss a new topic. For the first time in this channel, we're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about neurodiversity and disability. For most of the time, when people think of disability, they're thinking of something happening to somebody else, something that's rare or unfortunate, or something distant. But the truth is much more uncomfortable. Any person can become disabled at any moment in their life, either through illness, burnout, injury, chronic pain. And when that happens, many people discover something shocking, that the systems that are supposed to support us often do the opposite. They fail you first, and then they charge you for the damage. So, in order to explain this a little bit further, we'll start with the premise that burnout is not just being tired. When people talk about being burnout, they usually describe stress from working too much or just overdoing certain activities. But for many neurodivergent and disabled people, burnout is not just exhaustion. That can mean losing the ability to function the way you used to, which is also called skill regression. Um, for example, cognitive shutdown, chronic fatigue, sensory overload, pain that makes everyday tasks impossible, months or even years until there is some sort of relief or recovery. And many people do not actually even reach full recovery during their whole lives. So burnout isn't just about working too hard. Sometimes it is about surviving inside of systems that were never designed for people like us to survive in the first place. Um, Second thing is disabled people are competing in a system that not only was not built for them, but they are competing with everybody else at the same standards. For example, disabled and neurodivergent people are often expected to compete like everybody else, the same speed, same productivity, same energy. But the reality is that many institutions are deeply inaccessible. Education can fail disabled students. Healthcare can be difficult or impossible to access. Jobs can demand productivity levels that ignore pain, fatigue, executive function, or neurological differences. Um, and, and when somebody struggles inside those systems, the system doesn't slow down. Instead, it does increase the pressure. Another factor is struggling is often penalized. And that's the part that many people don't talk about. When you struggle because of disability, the consequences often become financial, social, and institutional. If you cannot study fast enough, you fall behind. If you cannot work enough hours, your income disappears. If you cannot keep up with expectations, opportunities vanish. And in many cases, struggling is not supported. Struggling is, in the opposite, penalized. For example, a long time ago, I did drop out of university. I never graduated. But even without diploma, after everything I went through, the system still expected me to repay my student loans. And talking about the irony of this is that the system fails to support students who are struggling. But then, nevertheless, it does hand back the bill. So in a sense, the very failures of the system become the charges for the humans who struggle inside of them that they have to repay back to the very same system. Another important part is inclusion on paper versus reality. We do live in times where many institutions claim to support diversity, inclusion, and accessibility, but companies say they value disabled people. However, they often do not actually keep those commitments and rather treat them as branding rather than reality. And accessibility, in a sense, becomes like a badge, a statement, a line on a website, But when disabled people actually need accommodations, flexibility, or understanding, those promises disappear. The law might say one thing, but reality often says another. And this is what leads us to the most important part of our talk today, and that is the endless cycle of burnout. This is why burnout feels impossible to escape, because the exhaustion is not only internal, it is reinforced again and again by the same external pressure, um, pain that reduces your capacity, and then following penalties, creating financial stress, instability, and fear. Um, and then further stress makes recovery even harder. And then the system doesn't only just ignore the injury, but it keeps reopening it. The truth that we avoid is that disability is not a rare category of people. It is part of the human condition. Anyone can join this category at any moment. Again, through illness, accident, aging, burnout. So the question is not how should society deal with disabled people. The real question is, why are we building systems that discard people the moment they become vulnerable? And if a system punishes people for being in pain, if it punishes them for struggling, if it punishes them for becoming disabled, the problem is not people struggling. The problem is the system itself. Because a humane society should not treat disability as a personal failure. And it should never turn suffering into a bill that people are forced to pay. The system fails first, and then it charges you for the damage. And this is something that we should all be questioning. So thank you for listening. I hope that was interesting, informative. And thank you again. Take care.